Thank you, team. If we could start our recording. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone, from wherever you are. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and offer a very warm welcome to our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander friends with us today. A warm welcome to you, RegTech Association members and our special guests. Welcome to this RegTech Edge No Borders program, and we promise we have a great lineup for you today. Before we get underway, there was just a couple of things that I wanted to go over. The RegTech industry is predicted to spend $204 billion by 2026 in financial services alone. So this is a massive opportunity, not only for those who've developed RegTech solutions, but it's also a massive opportunity for the customers of RegTech to really realise some of the great properties that you'll get from great RegTech solutions, including productivity, efficiency, and the lowering of costs. I'd like to acknowledge Austrade, who are a long-term supporter of the association and are sponsoring today's session. You will see that there will be a poll that will pop up during the proceedings, and it's one that we are gathering some data. Could I just get everybody to go to mute, please? Thank you. So there will be a poll that will pop up, and we're gathering some data on export markets for RegTech. So if you could complete that, we'd really appreciate it. And right at the end of the session today, we'll have a quality poll, which will just help us keep improving. So please do fill that in as well. When we established the association 5 years ago, we committed to give visibility and to provide a platform for this industry, to share the good work that they were doing and also to showcase the opportunity. And today's program is a fantastic example of just that. The programs have attracted 13,000 people from 75 countries since 2020. And today we have people from 9 countries registered and an almost equal number of customers to RegTech vendors. And this is a pretty significant ratio. And we're also seeing post-event that we're getting between 30 and 40 additional downloads of this content after the event. So nothing is wasted and nothing is lost. If people can't make it on the line today, they will all receive a recording. So I'm delighted to be joined today by 5 awesome organisations. We've got Graham Chi from BCyber, Fiona Long from InfoSec Assure, Shane Jantz from Nuix, Raghu Mahadev from Tata Consultancy Services, and last but certainly not least, Roland Chan from Vault Cloud. So before we get underway with the presentations, just a little bit of housekeeping. If everybody could turn your camera off and turn off your mic. For the speakers, I will invite you in turn to switch on your mic and your camera and come back to the podium. But if everybody else could remain off for now, it's less distracting for the presenters. Thank you very much. Today, each presenter will have 5 minutes. My camera and my mic will come on at the 4-minute 30-second mark, at which time that will be their cue to wrap up. And I'm afraid we have to be strict on it so that the person who comes first and the person who comes last gets equal time. I'm encouraging the presenters today to please use the chat to actually put links to their websites, their email addresses, product information, any case study material, so that as you, the audience, can then pick up that information. But for the audience and those of you online in observation mode, these sessions are much richer if we can get you to pose questions. So please ask your questions. The only thing I would ask is please point your question to the person that it's directed to and let us know who you are so that there's a bit of context around your question. All you need to do is put that in the chat, and the presenter, once they've finished their presentation, will then go live onto the chat and answer those questions. So unfortunately today, 2 of our presenters had to drop out, one of whom for COVID reasons. So we're really thinking of them and wish them a speedy recovery. And as a result of that, I'm going to be, once the presentations are over, please do stay with us because I'll spend 5 or so minutes talking about the association, some of what we've achieved, and also what our strategic roadmap looks like for the next 12 months, so you know what to expect out of the RTA. And then, as is tradition, we'll invite everybody to turn on their cameras and mics and can come on at the end and say hi. So I just need to get myself organised here a little bit because I need to have my timer on. Right, there we go. Now, first up, I'm delighted to welcome Graham Chi from BCyber. Graham, can you turn on your camera? All good. Okay, your time starts now. Thanks very much.
Okay, welcome everybody. My name's Graham Chi. I'm the Managing Director of BCyber. Can we go to the next slide, please? One of the things that this is the problem with it is that we've seen many a times the data collected for the SME risk mitigation is captured via a spreadsheet, and this is many of the problems that I've started to see. It's probably not so much the discrepancies of overlaps, it's probably the gaps in the data and what shade of green and really spreadsheets weren't used for, particularly designed for that sort of managing compliance. Next, please. So what we developed is we had mostly GRC, but we added two more things to it of assurance and education. And this has become the governance, risk, assurance, compliance and education. But rather than actually having these in separate components or hubs, we brought them all together in one secure portal for an SME. So we have NIST, ASD8, SME's own risk, and we look at the mitigation. So what we're trying to do is we're capturing the data once and using it very much throughout the same process. But the next step that we go through in kind of the compliance, that we call this raising the boats on one tide. So we're not actually leaving one part of the business alone of governance. Many of the people use different staff members, but what we're trying to do is bring up all boats on one tide. So our goal is to ensure there's one portal rather than multiple portals that people have to learn, and all the information is captured within there. Next slide, please. Now, what we're actually starting to look at is a single source of truth of information within that we can actually use for multiple purposes. Data is everywhere. That's probably one of the biggest complaints that we hear. We have data everywhere, but I don't know what it does. I don't know what I should be using it for. So what we try to do is bring it together, and what we looked at is a second source of what we're like, rather than using AI, we called it actionable insights or actionable intelligence, that we're trying to bring that through that data and actually use it for different purposes as a single source of truth, whether it's for governance, whether it's for risk, whether it's even for training. But what we're trying to do is bring that level up. So information and sort of knowledge is then shared, because what we started off with within BCyber was an intelligent chatbot. What we found was that it was too complicated, and what we were having is cognitive search capabilities. One of the capabilities we have is that we can take 400 pages of regulations, and our chatbot can actually learn that in about 35 minutes, that you can, rather than just a search function, you actually have the capability to get the sentiment analysis out of that as well. Now, that's all integrated within one portal, so you're not actually having that sort of process go through that you need to be able to jump from one system to another, learn a different system, share passwords throughout our process. We've seen a lot of people share passwords, probably the worst thing that can possibly happen. But what we've tried to do is look at this transparency of the audit log of the activity. So that's why we called it, with the assurance part, that we needed to ensure not only the logging capability, but what people were looking and receiving of emails, because they just don't read emails. So the sort of information is that we're trying to bring it right through. Next slide, please. Next slide, thanks. So really, like, I don't think the slide's working, but like our goal is to work with company secretaries, listed and unlisted, AFSLs, ACLs, and many other business advisory sort of things in here. Who we've worked for SEC companies, we've worked for responsible manager companies, we've done beta testing with SMEs, we work with accountants, we work with other asset managers. Our activities are there as well. Next slide. This is our team. We've had this team going since the inception, and it's not purely a tech background. We come from intellectual property, and we do accounting, we do tax, we have an RM. My co-founder Karen has worked in financial services for a long time. So there are our details. Thank you very much for RegTech of holding this. Thank you.
Thanks, Graham. Appreciate that. Please do feel free to pop some information on the chat line for the attendees. And if there are any questions for Graham, I'd encourage him to go on directly and address those. Thank you. It's now my great pleasure to invite Fiona Long from InfoSec Assure. Fiona, can we see you?
Hi.
There we are, and we can hear you. Okay,
Great.
well, I'll set the timer.
Great.
Thank
you. Hi all, thanks for your time today. So our platform, next slide. Thank you. So our platform is designed to help businesses know their risks, take action, be secure, and tell others. Next slide, please. So the problems we solve are for small and large businesses and for cybersecurity consultants. Changes to standards and regulations continue, and while we're seeing the industry slowly moving to a risk-based approach, which I'm personally glad of, by moving away from control checklists and applying risk-based thinking, you often need specialist skills. Now, as a cybersecurity consultant, IRAP assessor, I'm happy for you to pay me thousands of dollars a day to conduct a cybersecurity assessment, or you could use our platform and let it do all the hard work for you at a fraction of the cost. So let's get into it and have a look at what we do. Next. So once you sign up, you set up your unique impact and likelihood matrix, or you use our own, and you answer 4 worst case scenario questions. This helps the platform measure the risk, so we don't assume that every business is the same. There are 3 key modules that you progress throughout each assessment. And firstly, as we know, you need to know what assets are in scope. It's critical in understanding what's in scope of the assessment. Secondly, we have a control assessment module, which allows you to assess controls once, automatically map to multiple standards, and reuse work in future assessments. And thirdly, our reporting module launches your ability to assess the outcomes of assessment in many ways. So next slide. So let's have a look at the asset module. You simply add an asset and tag it with the type of asset it is. We've got 4 types of assets: technology, information, physical, and organisation. All assets can be given additional tags to further define them, such as tagging an info asset as personal information, card data, technology asset as a SaaS asset, physical asset as a data center. You can group your assets into custom groups, such as a product name or a business, and you can share the asset list with the stakeholders. You can also select from commonly used assets, and we'll do the tagging for you. Next. So to create a new assessment, you simply give it a name, select the assets you want to assess, and select one or more of the standards you want to assess your controls against. You don't ever need to read a requirement in a standard. Questions are presented in a consistent way under the core practice areas, and when you can undertake control assessments without technical knowledge by using our helpful guidance. Once you've answered a question, you can immediately see any suggested actions that may improve the control, or if you want to, you can download a tool or template to get going and uplift your security straight away. You can attach evidence and choose whether you want that evidence to show in your reports or not. You can create notes and tag them as additional key findings or for peer review. And once you've completed an assessment, the power is the next assessment you create will automatically use the previous control assessment findings to pre-populate your answers. For consultants and risk assessors, there are some other functions like risk assessments of that, the risks associated, custom actions, and using it for suppliers and clients. Next. Now, there are a variety of reports that you can create within the platform. So firstly, you want to maybe simply view your risk profile and key risks aligned to your business. You might want to see how well you measure up against each standard by viewing the maturity results. You can support your business's uplift security controls quickly by accessing automated, pre-written, clear and practical action plans. Action plans are also viewable by risks, so you can easily prove what, if you do something, how much the risk will actually reduce. And if you're the recipient of one of those pesky security questionnaires, and this is one of my personal favourite features of the platform, you can impress your stakeholders with an instant security capability report, which describes how you do you when it comes to security. Statements in the reports are created from the maturity controls you have in place, and they also show which standards they're aligned to. Next. So reporting features. So reports can be shared with stakeholders and third parties securely within the platform. And you can compare risk profiles and maturity graphs over time. You can access tools and templates associated with the actions to help you uplift your security quickly. And for consultants, you can export professional reports. So that's our tool. We aim to help your business understand your real risk quickly, support your teams to take practical actions to be secure, and enable your business to articulate what they are doing to any interested stakeholder. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, now is the time, I believe.
That's absolutely wonderful, Fiona, right on time. So yeah, please pop your information in the chat, and don't be afraid to ask a question yourself, or put the question out there and see if we can stimulate some of the people observing today to get a bit active on the chat. That'd be awesome. Thank you, Fiona. Next up, we have Shane Jantz from Nuix. We can see you, Shane. We can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, your time, I'm going to reset that. Your time starts now.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for making the time to listen to us speak today. It's a fantastic opportunity to connect with you. I'll just spend the next 5 minutes just giving a little brief overview of Nuix. My name's Shane Jantz, as Deborah said. I'm the Director of the GRC Solutions globally at Nuix. Next slide, please. So who is Nuix? Nuix is an organisation that creates and develops and supports their own software, and the software is designed to interrogate data from virtually any source of information, wherever it may reside. And customers use this interrogation to find the truth in their data in the digital world. We're headquartered in Sydney, but as you can see by the map there, we're across the world. We've got thousands of customers across 79 countries. And for the countries that we can't support, we've got very trusted partners around there, those countries, helping us deliver solutions to those parts of those worlds. Next slide, please. So in a nutshell, what do? We take vast amounts of data from virtually any source of information, as you can see by some of the common logos on the left-hand side there. And there's over 1,000 different formats. And basically what we do is we pass that information through our engine and help organizations understand that data to solve a myriad of problems. And you can see some of those problems on the right-hand side there. For over 20 years, we've been helping organizations in investigations and e-discovery. And you can see some of those types of investigations, everything from a corporate investigation through to royal commissions, through to litigation, and helping organizations with all their analysis of data from virtually anywhere to help with things like criminal activities, terrorist activities as well. But what we're seeing now is a convergence of all of these three boxes on the right-hand side coming together. And we need to understand where the data is so you can protect that data, so you know where your private information is, so that if you are ever hacked or there's an insider trading threat as well. Well, you know where that information is, and that's what our technology helps you understand, and that you can see some of those. There's not all of them, but some of those different use cases on the right-hand side. Next slide, please. So I've grouped at the high level what we actually do, helping organizations identify that data, and that's finding the information, collecting that information. You don't need to collect all of it. You can prioritize what you want to collect. We've got organizations, doing the small 1 and 2 terabytes right through to 200s, and now we're even helping organizations around the world with petabytes of data. But when you're talking about that volume of data, you're talking millions of documents. So we want to help you understand what you've got so you can make intelligent decisions and act upon those decisions. So the ability to understand who owns it, the age of the documents, the content, etc. So you can make that analysis decision, put eyes on documents, or use artificial intelligence, analytics to help you get to those answers as quick as you can so that you can act upon those. Next slide, please. So this is why customers use Nuix. Nuix is and has been for many, many years the most advanced processing engine on the market, being able to consume vast amounts of data from various different disparate systems, thousands of data types, as I mentioned earlier, and of virtually any size and complexity. We give organizations visibility into their data, and it's, they know why they need to do it, they know what they need to do, but they just don't know how they need to do it. And that's what we bring to the table. We help them do this in a cost-effective way, reducing the time and the cost to get to the answers so that they can action their information, whether it be a GRC solution, an investigation, or an e-discovery matter. Next slide, please. So one of the products I just want to talk about very quickly is, once you know where your data is and you want to analyze that information, how do you know what's in there? And we've got a risk scoring capability. It's built upon AI technology plus the customer's own intellectual property. But we can actually tell you whether it's a resume versus a contract versus an invoice, etc. Next slide, please. The second part of the product is being able to protect that information, monitoring where that information is, making sure that if it's breached, you're notified, etc. And the alerts and responsiveness. Next slide, please. These are some of the customers that we deal with. We've done, as I say, everything from banking royal commissions to terrorist investigations, right through to just corporate investigations as well. But these are just some of our customers around the world across all sectors: banking, finance, our large service providers around the world, and large law enforcement too. Next slide, please. And if you ever want to find out more, please reach out to me, shane@nuix.com. I'll put it in the chat, or you can hit our website at nuix.com as well. Thank you very much, Deborah, and everyone for listening.
Thanks, Shane. Thank you. It was appreciate. It's a lot of information to get through in a very short period of time, but you did very well. Thank you. So just a reminder, everybody, please do put some questions. We've got to have at least one question today, otherwise I'll be very disappointed. So next we have Raghu from Tata Consultancy.
Hi.
We've got you. There we go. We can hear you. Excellent. I'm going to start your timer now. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. Good evening, everybody, and good morning to all. Again, first of all, thank you for RegTech Australia for providing this platform, and also thank you, everybody, for making time to hear to us. Myself, Raghu Mahadev. I'm also joined by my colleague Ajay Acharya. We are from Tata Consultancy Services, and I basically had a business solutions for RegTech and RegTech. Today we are here to talk about few of the RegTech products to drive cognitive automations in process risk, RCSA, and obligation management. Next slide, please. Okay. So in terms of the challenges, probably I think all of us are aware what is the challenge when it comes to managing the compliances for both financial institutions and the industry at large. Today, when we look at it from left to right in terms of keeping a track of all the regulations an organization has to comply with and driving those compliances across the organization and monitoring the compliances to ensure that there is a sustained capability for addressing the compliance as well as monitoring any potential breaches. That's where we see it's largely manual and judgmental. And our motivation to develop this product was to bring in a human-guided cognitive interventions to help business leaders to address compliance more effectively and more sustained, and help organizations to transition from current way of working to regulation as a code. Next slide, please. Yeah. So in terms of how does this product address bringing in a cognitive interventions and looks to transform the compliance process, we look at from a left to right in terms of organizational ability to track all the obligations or compliance mandates that organizations need to comply with, and effectively looking at how does it impact the organizations, what operating controls are required, and what policies, procedures are required, and finally translating it into a robust assurance framework for an ongoing compliance, and as well as moving towards a regulation as a code. So it basically brings in a artificial intelligence based interventions and an ontology model, takes a regulation, translate that into a knowledge model. Knowledge model is the one which basically acts as an engine to drive effective identification of the obligations, then further moves into the next in the value chain in terms of inherent and residual risk profiling, where it leverages artificial intelligence to effectively classify the obligations and associated inherent risks into the organizational taxonomy, and further power automations to drive a robust internal control environment, and as well as a control assurance. Looks at for both from an design effectiveness and an operating effectiveness, and finally translate into the regulation as a code to help facilitate effective breach monitoring. That's how it basically looks at in terms of streamlining the compliances. With the key value we wanted to bring in with this product is bringing in actionable insights with a human-guided automation to drive more effective compliances for the organization. It's an industry agnostic capabilities, can be applied on every industry which is regulated. Next slide, please. So the way we kind of approached is it leverages some of the emerging digital designs, exploiting a digital designs like ontology models, which basically looks at translating a regulation or a mandates into a knowledge, and as well as the deep learning algorithms to help organizations to effectively map into the risk taxonomies, control taxonomies, and a power automation for controlled implementation as well as the control assurance, and finally the predictive models for effective remediation. And also it helps organizations to move towards a more of a dynamic RCSs. That's what we kind of address in terms of looking from a left to right, bringing in a various cognitive interventions capabilities and actionable insights for the business leaders, technology leaders to address regulatory compliances across the organizations. Next slide, please. So putting this into life, how we have gone about operationalizing, we work across the clients across globally, both on the BFSI and non-BFSI industries. This is one such example where this RegTech product has been leveraged for driving sustainable compliances for this insurer and a bank who basically has to comply with both the federal regulations and the state jurisdictions. Next slide, please. So for any questions, please feel free to reach out to us, and I'll also drop our contacts and URLs for the product. Thank you.
Thank you, Raghu. Right on time. Well done. Thank you very much for that. Please, any questions for the team at Tata, please pop those in the chat. And likewise, Raghu, if you've got some information you'd like to pop in there, please do that. Last but not least, Roland, thank you for being patient. Roland from Vault Cloud. I'm just going to reset my timer, and you can get underway. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Deborah. Hi, I'm Roland Chan. I'm a product manager at Vault Cloud, and I'm here to talk about how Vault's products and services help protect Australia's data. Next slide, please. First, a little bit about our history. We were founded 10 years ago this month when we saw there was a need for a cloud infrastructure provider that was compliant with Australian government security standards and completely sovereign, 100% Australian owned and operated. We worked with the Australian Signals Directorate, helping them to define the security standards that are used for all cloud platforms in Australia. And Vault has long held a leading position in the cloud market in terms of our security and compliance. It's far superior to the public clouds that we're all familiar with. And as a result, we've been certified as one of the first 3 strategic providers to the Australian government. We obviously have Australian and government agencies as our customers, including Defence, Home Affairs and Air Services Australia, as well as quite a wide variety of commercial enterprises. Of particular interest, I think, for this audience are the software as a service, independent software vendors and system integrators who leverage our security compliance in their product when looking to meet the needs of their customers, and the growing number of enterprises that are falling under regulation as critical infrastructure providers. Next slide, please. So what we do is provide cloud infrastructure services that are certified compliant to Australian security regulations. And I'm preaching to the choir at a RegTech event when I say this, but security compliance is a really hard problem. Depending on which sector an organisation is operating in, there could be thousands of individual regulations or controls with which to comply. Security standards for government data under thousands of items. Healthcare and financial services also have very complex but different schemes. More recently, the government's defined a new type of organisation, a critical infrastructure provider, with their own security regime, and those organisations are across all, really wide variety of different sectors. Even at the most basic level, the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, has defined a set of essential 8 areas to set the basic security standards for every organisation, and we see even many of our customers struggle to align themselves, even though there are only 8. Next slide, please. So our approach is to offer foundational cloud technologies that are specifically designed to be leveraged by our customers when attaining compliance. So our customers can utilise our certifications when building out their platforms, their technology solutions, which reduces the amount of effort required to achieve compliance significantly. Our platforms are secured by default rather than needing additional configuration and work to achieve security, which is quite a contrast to how many public cloud services are offered. For example, in a recent market survey, it was found that poor configuration of the really popular AWS simple storage service was to blame in 25% of data leakages. In another survey conducted by Red Hat, 93% of respondents using the Kubernetes technology platform reported having a security incident in the last year, and 60% of those were due to human error. So it's pretty clear that the cloud users are experiencing issues bringing their platforms up to a secure state. We're also bringing products into the multi-cloud market so that our customers can leverage our secure by default postures wherever they host their applications. We know there's value in each of the public clouds, and we want to help everyone consume them securely. Next slide, please. Thanks. Our core product is our secure infrastructure as a service. This provides fundamental compute, network and storage building blocks that are used to build all cloud applications. As well as the technology being secure and compliant, we operate all of our products with security cleared onshore Australian staff to really reduce the human risk factors that are always going to be there. Our product's pricing scheme is far simpler than that of public cloud, so you don't need a consultant to understand your bill like you do with the big boys, and we're very competitive in terms of the resulting price. We also provide a fully managed data protection service that helps our customers mitigate the risks associated with data loss events like infrastructure failure, corruption of data, or ransomware attacks. This removes a fundamental risk to your data, and we do so with a managed service with built-in integrations to common enterprise applications to minimize the amount of effort that you need to undertake in order to deal with that risk. Most recently, we've also released our secure container cloud. This is a managed Kubernetes product that provides a modern application hosting environment that's secured to industry best practices out of the box. It's got built-in compliance tools, security scanning capabilities, application migration features, and it's deployable on our cloud and any public cloud. When you need to demonstrate compliance in order to meet the needs of your business or your customers' businesses, Vault products can provide you with the best starting point for your compliance journey. Next slide, please. Thanks for your time. If you want to find out more about Vault and how we can help you manage your security risks and compliance, please feel free to contact me directly or via our website. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Roland. And I'm glad to say that there's a question for you already on the chat for you to go and answer. Thank you very much. So I really appreciate the time taken, and I understand there's a lot of pressure But the idea of these sessions is to really provide a platform for these companies to show, the people that are in attendance, the potential of RegTech and some of the problems that RegTech can solve for. And so just in summary, what we've heard from today is a governance, risk assurance, compliance and education portal, an information security assurance service, transforming massive amounts of messy data, and I think our Nuix did a great job of explaining how they do that. Driving, better data control transformation, and then finally protecting Australia's critical data through simplifying maintaining compliance with Australian data and information security expectations. Thank you very much to our presenters. As I mentioned earlier, in case you missed it, one of our presenters had to pull out because unfortunately there was a COVID matter. So that's left us with a little bit of time up our sleeve. So I have found a way, if you'd like to stay with me, to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that are coming up for us, not only just with the fantastic events that you can see on that slide right now, but also a little bit of what lies ahead in the RegTech Association's roadmap and what we are planning to do. What you will also see on the screen round about now as well is a quality poll. If you could complete that, let us know what you thought about today. That is really helpful to us to continue to improve. So Hong, would I be able to get you to take me to the slide that shows the roadmap? And I'll allow the presenters to continue to answer their questions on the chat.
Hi, Deb. It should already be up.
No, I've got a blank screen, actually.
Okay.
It seems actually like one of the attendees, not really sure what's, there we go. There we go. So I thought I'd just take 5 minutes to talk through the roadmap for the association over the next 12 months. And I wanted to underline how we arrived here. And we didn't just arrive here because it all felt like a good idea. What we've done is we've been continually collecting information and data from our members through various surveys, as well as the conference that some of you may have attended, our Accelerate RegTech conference, which was held in April of this year. And we deliberately designed the content for the conference so that it would drive the questions that we needed to ask ourselves and also boil down what was going to determine what was going to be in our roadmap. And so we looked at things like the entire RegTech ecosystem. We looked at regulatory reform, institutional reform, and then we started probing around what does the new world order of RegTech look like? And those can be an extension, so it might look like an extension of financial services into some areas that we've not traditionally covered before. And then we started to think about, well, what are some other industry verticals? Because I did hear one of the presenters say something along the lines of, this is a sector agnostic solution. And so we're aware that many of our members now have sector agnostic solutions. So we want to try and expand out our remit. So what you can see on this slide, and I probably won't go through absolutely everything, but the high points on here is that we legitimately want to do more to enhance our regulatory engagement. And we'll be doing that through the domestic regulators as well as linking hands with some of the global regulators. And in fact, I'm traveling to the US in July to attend an invite-only event that is being held for regulators and institutions in the US. And I hope to be able to meet a lot of key critical US regulators to pave the way for the association to do more for our members in the US market. Another very interesting thing here is traditionally since the beginning of founding the association, we deliberately set ourselves up to be of best use probably to scale up companies. So that is our RegTech scale ups. But over time, and now that we have our model more embedded, we feel that the time is right for us now to hold out our hand and offer some services to an early stage cohort. So that means RegTech founders who may have recently founded their company, that are still finding their way, still trying to find their customer base, still trying to tweak their business models, may still be in the early stages of attracting capital. We want to create a program that will help them. So watch this space. We're launching the new category from the 1st of July. The third point on here is this is a point of where, collaboration and communication is absolutely key. And it was actually why the association was even established, was to break down the barriers on miscommunication or no communication. And we can't work together if we're not talking. So recently we convened with 6 other industry associations, and we've banded together. And we have an in-spirit understanding, and that's all it is for now, but we hope that that will grow over time. We've named ourselves the Tech Collective, and what we have committed to do later this month, we'll be holding an event. But further on from there, what we are planning on doing is getting together and sharing information. And so don't be surprised if you start to see joint events, joint programs being run with the likes of Blockchain Australia, FinTech Australia, SureTech Australia, Australian Computer Society, ourselves, Stone and Chalk, the Tech I'm not sure if I said the Tech Council, but there's 7 of us all together. So we're just going to kick off. It won't be an exclusive group. We hope to invite more tech associations to come in and join us over time, but I thought that that was worth mentioning, so watch out for that term, Tech Collective. We'll continue our showcase opportunities, which is what you've just seen just now, and then we will continue our education and promotion of the industry. In terms of external markets, we are looking at UK and Europe and US as the preferred markets, and this has been purely based on the demand that we are seeing from our members right now. And so we will likewise also have a focus on trying to attract US and UK companies who may be looking to come to Australia. We will also be a conduit for those. So watch out for programs that we'll be running with the trade agencies around both of those markets. Third is the customer segments. We've identified, thank you, Roland. I can see that you've got to drop off now. Thank you. We've identified 3 key sectors that we really want to focus in on over the next 12 months. We started work last year in government. We're just at the very tip of the iceberg. There is a lot of opportunity in government, not only in Australia, but overseas. At the moment, I think Australia are leading the way in terms of talking about RegTech for government. It's not a very common thing that you hear in other markets, but we're about to press some buttons in the UK. So let's see what happens there. So government will be a focus. The small to medium enterprise sector is also going to be a focus, and I note that some of the presentations as well tonight are focused on the SME sector. We'll be doing more. We have in the past been pretty focused on large institutions, but we're looking at ways and methods that we can actually bring RegTech into the small, medium enterprise sector. And then last but not least on here is second tier financial services, superannuation and insurance is definitely on the horizon there. We have all 4 of the big banks engaged and members of the associations, at least the ones in Australia, that is, but we will have a focus on those second tier in the next 12 months. And then finally, we're looking at enhancing our research capability. We'll be expanding our investor programs, and with some of the work that we'll be doing in export markets, we'll be also trying to encourage global investors to look at some Australian companies. And then probably the biggest thing on this whole slide is helping the RegTech industry to embrace and adopt ESG. And if you haven't heard me say it before, there's probably a couple of things and good reasons why. If you don't know about ESG, you need to begin to understand that, and not just from serving your institutional customers, because ESG is very important to them. They've got goals that they need to achieve. So it's twofold, really. It is a way that you can look at your customers with a slightly different lens. and be less about selling them software and more about selling them capabilities that's going to help them achieve their ESG targets and goals. But the second thing is that as a business and as business owners and founders right now, that you have looked at an ESG program and tried to work out what is your commitment to the E, S and the G as a business yourself. And that will become even more important. And it's why it's on this bottom line here around investment, because private capital and investors, institutional investors and professional investors will be asking you some pretty hard questions around the E, S and G, and we need to prepare you for that. So watch an education series that we're going to be running very, very soon, unpacking ESG and helping you understand what will be what we think is a fantastic opportunity. So I think that is it in a nutshell. I'm really happy to stay online until 5:30 if those of you would like to turn on your cameras and come join us. Oh, this wonderful slide here also has some of our achievements over the last 12 months. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those, but you can see some pretty astounding numbers. We're very proud of what we've managed to achieve, 160 organisations together and an executive of 3 and a very committed board of 10 people really pushing and driving, to get our RegTech deployed as quickly as possible so that we can achieve our dream of accelerating adoption. Thank you very much, Graham. That's a very kind word. So I'm going to, I'll call a conclusion to the event, and I invite you to come online, turn on your camera. You can turn on your mic and come and say hi if you'd like to. Thank you very much. Thank you for being with us.